Through motion, electricity simulates the stability of inertia, and also through motion, magnetism reattains the real stability of inertia. Rigid bodies are relatively cool, contracted bodies. Rigid masses of stored energy are accumulations of expanded masses into contracted masses, the decrease of rotation of which has been transformed to a corresponding increase in revolution. Nebulous masses of discharging potential are released accumulations which reverse the order of their revolution and rotation as they expand and separate into more simple masses of lower potential. Charging bodies are those which are transferring the constant of their speed time in revolution to power time in rotation. Discharging bodies are those which are exchanging the constant of their power time in rotation to speed time in revolution. If the foregoing premises are correct in principle, then the four dimensions, rotation, revolution, mass, and plane, must be related to the attraction or gravitation and the repulsion of radiation. Let us now consider each of these dimensions separately, ever bearing in mind that all mass is formed from within itself, and that, as a consequence, the increase of any gravitative effect is accompanied by an increase in a radiative effect in opposite directions of the same ratio. More positive charge in a mass does not mean less negative discharge. Greater ability to attract does not mean less ability to repel. Each opposite effect simultaneously increases and decreases in preponderance until one overtakes the other and assumes the preponderance of the other in passing. This is the basic principle of mass formation and deformation. The formless universe of thinking mind is an inert universe of the real stability of non-motion, imbued with a desire to overcome inertia through motion. The universe of form and mass is the gyroscopic expression of the desire of thinking mind to give form to the ideals of mind and to overcome motion by inertia in order to regain its lost stability. When motion overcomes inertia, it stimulates the stability of inertia in the gyroscopic gravitational points of north, which are developed in every creating form of thinking mind. When inertia overcomes motion, it simulates form by recording it in inertia. The record of the ideal of mind in inertia is the eternal soul of that ideal. Ideal is forever recorded in soul in inertia and repeated in form of mass in motion. No ideal of mind ever began or ever ended. Another chapter. Many theories. This chapter is called Expressions of Gravitation and Radiation. Rotation, the 12th dimension. Many theories have been advanced regarding the cause of rotation of mass. It is generally assumed that mass has been given an original impetus which keeps it in motion. The cause of rotation is extremely simple and not shrouded in mystery. All mass is constantly changing its potential. It therefore must change its position as its potential is changed. For every potential has its own place or position in this universe of dimension. Let us recall a basic law. That which is generated must be radiated. Planets generate in preponderance north and south of their Cancer-Capricorn belts on their daylight hemispheres. Planets preponderantly radiate in preponderance at the boundaries of their ecliptic expansions and on their dark hemispheres. To generate means to contract from within. The generative portion of a planet pulls against the spiral lines of force and thus retards motion in that direction. To radiate means to expand, expel, or repel from within. The radiative portion of a planet pushes against the spiral lines of force and thus accelerates rotation. In a high potential position, the opposed pressures which cause that high potential are more equally distributed over the entire surface of the mass. At the overtone of the wave, where all planets are true spheres, the ability to generate and to radiate is equally distributed over the entire area of each planet. As the potential of a mass diminishes, the ability to generate confines its activities more closely to the area surrounding its charging poles and decreases in intensity in the direction of its equator. When our sun, for example, has reached its overtone position at the north point of the wave, its radial activity will have overtaken its general activity. The corona of the sun will then be as prominent at the poles as at the equator. The charging poles will then coincide with the pole of rotation. Conversely, the general activity of the sun will be as great at the equator as at the poles. The ecliptic will then coincide with the equator. There will be no ecliptic expansion. The equatorial belt of the sun will then be as rigid as the polar regions, and sunspots will be confined to the plane of the equator until they entirely disappear. The generative position of a planet is the charging portion. It is regenerative. The endothermic or heat absorbing. It is endothermic or heat absorbing. The radiative portion of a planet is the discharging portion. It is degenerative. It is exothermic or heat releasing. That which is being drawn into a planet from within is an opposing force. Its effect is opposite to the effect of the force of that which is being expelled from a planet. Celestial mechanics employs these two forces to keep the wheels of nature revolving. Nature sets these two forces one against the other in a manner which man would do well to more closely emulate. Nature always directs her force against a tangent and continues it without a break. Nature accumulates her power to its high explosive, high pressure, high temperature, and high potential position, and then regenerates it over and over again until every last particle of it has performed work on its way to dissolution. Consider the solar system for an example of universal economy. The sun represents the accumulation of generated energy, which runs the wheels of this particular atom of the universal machine. The sun is the storage battery of this solar system. The explosive radioactive emanations from the sun are regenerated in a continuous stream by impact against the inertial plane of her nearest planet. From the inertial plane, its motion is continued by a regenerative positive force, pulling from within the planet in a spiral tangential direction. Mercury uses what it needs of this power and passes it on by expelling it from within in a greater tangential direction. One after the other, the intake of each planet absorbs the regenerated exhaust of the previous one and passes it on from planet to planet in an ever-increasing tangential direction until all the power of the primary explosion has been utilized to perform the work of giving form to the ideal of universal thinking. No power is wasted. All of the exhaust energy of the sun passes along the lines of its ecliptic expansion as bound energy confined within pressure walls, as truly as the exhaust energy of an explosion in a cylinder head passes within the walls of the cylinder of man's machine. The radiation of the sun does not pass into space in a casual manner. It is directed toward the south by the way of west and within the limits of its own ecliptic area, which is approximately 16 degrees.